An original podcast from podlatino.com.
Bondy is a word that evokes many things in France. For some, it evokes the banlieues, those peripheral areas of France's great cities that the collective imagination associates with hardship, with difficulty, with the children of immigrants who grow up between two cultures without fully belonging to either. For others, Bondy is simply another municipality in the Seine-Saint-Denis department, northeast of Paris, with its lively streets and its mosques and its churches and its markets and its people from dozens of countries living alongside each other in the same space without the world paying much attention. But since the 20th of December 1998, Bondy has carried one more meaning. Bondy is the place where Kylian Mbappé was born. That year, 1998, carries a special resonance in the history of French football. It was the year France won its first World Cup, at home at the Stade de France, with Zinedine Zidane as the absolute protagonist. The entire country erupted in joy. And in Bondy, in that suburb that tourists do not visit and that newspapers mention rarely when talking about good things, people celebrated too. Kylian Mbappé was born 6 months after that final, as if the universe had decided that the next chapter of French football's story was already on its way. His father, Wilfried, had emigrated from Cameroon. He played football, loved it, and when he stopped playing, he became a grassroots coach in Bondy, teaching the sport to the neighborhood's boys with the patience and dedication of someone who understands that football can be much more than a game for certain children. His mother, Faiza, came from Algeria. She had been a professional-level handball player, a real athlete, someone who understood from the inside what it means to dedicate your body and mind to a sport. Kylian, therefore, did not arrive in the world of sport by accident. He arrived because sport already lived in that house before he was born. From childhood, Kylian had an idol. It was not a French player, not someone from the neighborhood, not anyone from his immediate surroundings. It was Cristiano Ronaldo, the Portuguese, with his obsession with perfection, his pace, his capacity to work harder than anyone and convert it into goals, was the model that young Kylian had placed in his mind. He had photos of Ronaldo in his bedroom. He studied his movements. He wanted to be like him. And that admiration, that willingness to imitate the best in order to become the best, already said something very important about the character of the boy who was going to grow up in that house in Bondy. At AS Bondy, the club where his father coached, Kylian began to play. And almost immediately it became clear that this boy was not like the others. Not in the sense of being better in some areas and weaker in others, as normally happens with young players. He was different in a more fundamental way: speed. A speed that is not only physical, not only that his legs move faster than anyone else's. It is a speed that begins in the mind. Kylian processed the game faster than any rival. He saw the options before they existed, and when he decided to move, his body executed that decision in a time that seemed physically impossible. The major clubs in France began to call. Paris Saint-Germain wanted him. Lyon wanted him. But it was Monaco who took him. Monaco, that small principality on the Côte d'Azur with a historic club that in recent decades has had the ability to discover young talents before anyone else. And in Monaco's youth ranks, Kylian Mbappé kept growing, kept learning, kept being, each season, a little faster, a little more intelligent, a little more inevitable. He made his first team debut for Monaco on the 2nd of December 2015. He was 16 years old and 167 days. He became the youngest player in the club's history to debut. A record that arrived with the naturalness of someone who does not know what he is doing because nobody has told him yet that it was supposed to be impossible. The following season, he was a starter. And the one after that was the one that changed everything. In the 2016-17 season, Monaco did something nobody expected. They won Ligue 1, the French championship, in dominant fashion. And Mbappé was a fundamental part of that achievement. 19 goals across all competitions. Performances that left opponents looking at each other with that expression that only appears when someone has just done something that has no rational explanation. The Champions League, where Monaco reached the semi-finals, was the stage that introduced him to the rest of Europe. And Europe saw him. And Europe wanted what it saw. PSG paid 180 million euros for him. 180 million. A figure that at the time was the second highest in football history, surpassed only by Neymar's transfer to the same club a few weeks earlier. For a 19-year-old boy raised in Bondy, that figure was as abstract as the number of stars in a galaxy. But what was not abstract was the responsibility that came with it. When you are bought for 180 million, the whole world expects something from you in every match. Every mistake is amplified. Every success is analysed. You are no longer simply a talented young player. You are an investment. You are an expectation. You are the future, and the future must be perfect. Mbappé bore that weight with a maturity that confused everyone around him. Because Kylian, despite the speed, despite the goals, despite the fame that arrived before adolescence was over, always seemed to have his feet on the ground. He still called his parents. He still went back to Bondy when he could. He was still the boy who had photos of Ronaldo in his room. Only now, the boy in the photos was him. And then came Russia 2018. The World Cup. The appointment that defines careers, builds legends, separates the good from the great. Mbappé was 19 years old. In the French squad, there were players with more experience, more titles, more history. But from the very first match, it was clear that this team had an engine running at a different frequency. In the round of 16 against Argentina, Mbappé scored twice and assisted another in one of the most extraordinary individual performances seen at a World Cup in many years. Argentina, with Messi, with Di Maria, with all their talent, was unable to keep up with that teenager who ran as if the laws of physics were a suggestion and not an obligation. France won the World Cup. Kylian Mbappé, at 19, lifted the trophy. He became the second player in history, after Pelé, to score in a World Cup final before the age of 20. The comparison with the Brazilian was already there, floating in the air, even though Kylian had not asked for it and probably did not want it. Comparisons are the weight that the greats must carry from the moment the world decides they are great. The years that followed at PSG were years of individual dominance almost without precedent in French football. Goals, league titles, performances that filled stadiums. But they were also years of institutional tension, of a complicated relationship with the club's management, of the growing feeling that the PSG project, with all its stars and its petrodollars, was not the place where Mbappé could become everything he was capable of being. The dream had always been Real Madrid, the club of Zidane, of Ronaldo, of the greatest, the club where definitive greatness is measured. In the summer of 2024, that dream became reality. Kylian Mbappé signed for Real Madrid. He arrived at the House of the Galacticos at 25 years old, at what many consider the beginning of his best years. With Ancelotti, with Vinicius, with Bellingham, in a team built to win in Europe. And he began to show, match by match, that Madrid had not only signed an extraordinary player, but the one who in the coming years was going to define an era. In the French national team, Mbappé is the captain, the number 10, the heir to a tradition that includes Platini, Zidane, and Henry, the three men who before him led France to the very top. And now he, the boy from Bondy, the son of a Cameroonian and an Algerian, the child who had photos of Ronaldo in his room, carries that history on his back, and an entire country watching him, hoping that what happened in 1998 and in 2018 will happen again in 2026. The 2026 World Cup is played in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Mbappé is 27 years old. He is at the best moment of his career. He has experience, he has maturity, he has the hunger of someone who knows what it is to win, but also knows that every title must be won again, because it is not inherited and it is not given. France is a contender. With Mbappé, France is always a contender. There is an image that summarizes better than any other what Kylian Mbappé means to the football of this time. It is the image of a boy running. It does not matter which stadium, which opponent, which scoreline. Simply a boy running, with that long stride and that body leaning forward that seems to defy gravity, while the defenders trying to stop him are left behind one after another, like trees in a forest that the wind passes through without asking permission. That boy is from Bondy. And Bondy, since the 20th of December 1998, is no longer just a suburb northeast of Paris. It is the place where the fastest football in the world was born.